Welcome to Couch and Chat, Kenny Yamaguchi. How are you doing?
I'm chilling. Excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, dog.
Dude, how have you been?
Good, man. Just winter quarter, coming up towards finals, for people at UCLA, so the grind's beginning to start. Nothing too crazy, Everyone's been through the ringer, especially through fall quarter, so everyone's kind of familiar with it, hopefully.
Yeah, I know, I feel it. So tell the audience a little bit about like yourself, what you are, like who you are. Tell the audience.
All right, so my name is Kenny Yamaguchi. I'm a third-year economics major, prospective entrepreneurship minor. I'm from Darien, Connecticut, so I'm about 2,500 miles away from LA, where we are right now. Obviously involved in the frat. Jason's fraternity brother, quote unquote. Phi Psi. And some stuff I do on campus. So I actually work for undergraduate admissions. I'm a campus tour guide, so catch me giving tours 2 times a week. Give me a holler, give me a shout. And I work for IFC, so that's pretty much like fraternity government, right? So I work as the vice president of media and outreach, just making sure we maintain a good public image here on campus, and just stay involved, all that kind of good stuff.
Cool. So how did you get involved with I know you mentioned entrepreneurship minor. So was that a recent thing, or you always like gunning for
so it's kind of just like, it kind of started in high school, because my best friend growing up, his mom actually works for a startup company, and in high school they have an internship program implemented for seniors at the end of the year, and so I kind of reached out to her and was like, hey, if there's any chance, just let me know if I can participate. And then she said, why not come on board? And so my first internship experience and my first entrepreneurship experience was actually before coming to college, and so having that kind of standard set in before coming out here, I felt like helped give me a good gauge of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to study.
Right.
And obviously, for those who don't know, UCLA, we don't have an undergraduate business school, so it's a little tough, unfortunately, right? Always one flaw to everything.
Yeah.
And so to kind of have that and just think, if you want to work in a startup business, economics major, so many people do the econ major, how do you kind of set yourself apart?
Yeah, right.
The entrepreneurship course really stood out to me, and so I just applied, and I just took the first class, Management 160.
Oh, wow. How was that?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. But it's really great if you're really into it. I feel like if you want to put in the work for it, then it comes out across pretty well. So
does the minor help you get other internships too, or?
So that's the interesting thing. It's like, I don't know, because I haven't put on my resume or anything yet. So just kind of thinking about it from that sense, it's like, is it gonna help? Is it not gonna help? Right now, still looking for an internship. So it's like,
does the minor itself like internally like connect you to other like?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think it does. I think
you just started, right? Like when you started?
Just starting. So I just started the first class right now. So that's the first class I'm in, and then spring I'm going to take the second required class, and then hear back in the fall to see whether I got in or not. So there's 2 classes.
So you're not officially.
I'm not officially in.
Oh, you're not officially in.
So I'm prospective entrepreneurship.
Oh, wow, okay.
If the admissions office is listening, please let me in. But,
I think you'll get in, bro.
Fingers crossed.
You can just
good
pay
looks.
$400K.
Oh, okay. We're gonna go there, but yeah, you could do that too.
Oh yeah. But anyway, I'm gonna pause this real quick. We're gonna open up a yerba.
Oh yeah.
For the mic.
For the of course.
Oh. It sounds really good on the mic, actually.
It sounds super good. Yeah. Dude, the Blue 40 is really good. Such a great flavor to have. Jason actually hooked me up with a case. Thank you, Jason. Thank you very much.
Anytime. So you mentioned that you're from Connecticut.
Yeah.
Right? So tell us about that. Like, have you all been to California beforehand? Like before?
Yeah, for sure. So my parents are from Torrance. No, they're from Japan. They first lived in Torrance, moved up to Walnut Creek, and then actually moved to Connecticut. And I was born in Connecticut. And so I guess this helps apply for a lot of people who are out of state, maybe not as far as Connecticut, but people who are just kind of looking for that transition. It's tough. I mean, like, for me, I had been to California, but, like, I don't really remember it. Like, I didn't go to school here or anything like that.
So you came,
it's
like a kid or something.
Right, and, like, I don't really remember that much, maybe for vacation or something.
Right.
But for all my life, I've been in Connecticut. And you come out to UCLA and you take a tour and you kind of explore campus, and it really seems like such a great community, and it kind of seems like such a great opportunity to have, but a lot of the time it might be perceived as just like a California school, and so your mindset kind of going there might be like, oh, it's just all California kids, and so as an out-of-state student, how do you perceive that? Because that is really intimidating, and it's like for people in California, it's hard to understand, because it's you've heard of UCLA your whole life, and you've been to the campus multiple times. Whereas like for me, I actually didn't fly out to visit the campus until I was accepted.
Oh wow! So you just went in.
So just went in full send, sent an application without ever visiting anything like that. And so you know, I'm super excited, and, you know, I get on the plane, and, you know, I tell all my friends we're going out to California for college, and everyone's super excited, and then I land in LAX, and I remember vividly just going out of the terminal, getting on the bus to come to Westwood and go to UCLA, and just thinking, you know, what the fuck am I doing? Oh, wait, I can swear.
You can swear.
Okay, cool.
Explicit podcast, you're good.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so it's just being like, man, what the fuck am I doing? Because, you know, there's 31,000 people who are undergraduates.
Huge amount
of people. And, like, in my mind, it's just going to be people who come here knowing who their friends are already, you know, coming here, you know, just already knowing what they want to do. Right. And I'm shit out of luck. I mean, my town is smaller than the campus community here. It's 20,000 people. And so for me, I'm just like, holy shit, did I make a mistake? And, like, ever since that point up until now, like, I haven't looked back. It's just been like, I honestly feel like out-of-state students just, you know, have such a better transition just because there's nothing holding them back. It's kind of like a fresh slate, and I can be who I want to be and do what I want to do without having any of the standards set that I had in my high school or anything like that, and just come out here and be who I want to be. So, you know, that's just my transition from Connecticut a little bit. Yeah.
It's
been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride.
So you're a third year now. Would you say you've changed as a person since, you know, Connecticut days?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like as a third year now, you just kind of grow a lot. And I think, like, one thing that I give UCLA a lot of credit for, and I think that, you know, colleges and universities do get it to a certain extent, but just being at UCLA as a public institution, having access to all sorts of people really helped open my eyes beyond the classroom, so to speak. I think that you meet so many people here that have their own stories and kind of have their own ideas, and coming out to UCLA, I feel like you have an opportunity and you have a right to share your story. And I think that's really important, because something that I have a lot of pride in is when, you know, a lot of people know I'm from Connecticut, or, like, a lot of people know my major or, like, what I'm doing, because it helps me know that I'm making an impression or an impact on people. And so my first year, you know, coming here, I feel like my first year was really trying to prove myself to a lot of people, especially my first quarter, just trying to settle in, just trying to become acquainted, and then kind of from that point forward, just being, you know, accepting, like, who I was as a student, who I am as a UCLA individual, you know, joining Fireside, and kind of having these bits and pieces that helped make the collage of, like, who I am as, like, a college student and who I am at UCLA. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of pressure to that. I won't lie. I don't think that it's easy for anyone, but I think that through hardships, you know, helps make the diamond, you know, like, if you don't create pressure, you can't make a diamond. And so
Kenny's the diamond.
Yeah, you know what can I say? No, Jason's the true diamond here, the host of Couch and Chat. But to really have, you know, kind of have your back up against the wall, and, you know, if you're shit out of luck, then you just kind of make the leap, and, you know, you land where you land. And I think that, you know, there's a path that you're set on, and so I think that, you know, you do everything that you can to help stay straight on it and just kind of come up on top.
So we've talked about your growth, you know, the past 3 years. So where do you see yourself in, you know, the next year, after your fourth year, or during your fourth year next year?
Yeah, I mean, like, the question now is, like, obviously being from Connecticut and being so close to New York is, like, are you going to go home after you graduate?
What are you going to do, man?
Are you going to stay out in LA?
Here or what?
It's tough because, like, you know, I really, really credit everyone out here who's made my experience so special. I think it's, like, I really feel like everyone's contributed such a positive way, and I'm so grateful for everyone that's made an impact here. And, you know, that's what's really captivating about LA, is because it's like, I want to stay out here because of the people I've met. And I think the biggest thing for me is, like, well, if I stay in LA, is LA going to be like UCLA in my time here, or is LA going to be, you know, is it something that I've never experienced, right? And so, you know, I think it's interesting to see, like, where you're born and raised, and then, like, where you find yourself in the most, like, individual growth and, like, what you've become. And so, do I want to stay, you know, where I'm accustomed to? Do I want to take a leap of faith? And, like, you know, coming out here was already one leap of faith on itself, right? And so, do I want to stay out here? Do I want to go home? And right now, I mean, I'm not sure. You know, it's tough.
It's a loaded question,
Yeah, so it's like, you know, not to leave anyone on a cliffhanger, but
I mean, you still have a lot of time to
exactly, and I think we'll figure it out when we get there. But are you staying? You're gonna be local?
I'm trying to stay here.
You're trying to stay
my best to stay here.
Here.
Like you said before, you know, the experience I feel like living in LA won't be the same as being here at UCLA because we're stuck in this little bubble with a bunch of college students. And, I'm still grateful for all of those experiences, those individual, unique experiences that everyone's like contributed to me. Mm-hmm. But I think it's going to be very different. Yeah. But I still want to stay within like this area because I don't want to go back home. Right. For personal reasons. But yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But only time will tell. Yeah. I have 3 months left. Yeah, no, you're chilling. Plenty of time. We'll see what happens. Plenty of time. Okay, so I know you mentioned that, your parents immigrated here. Yeah. Right? So where are they from? They're from Japan. Okay. They're both from Japan. So they came from Japan to America. They came from Japan to, California. So you're Japanese American. Full Japanese American. Cool. First American citizen in my family, actually. No way. Yeah. Me too. Oh, wow. Look at that. Me too, man. Oh, man. Gotta get that. Yeah, so Kenny and I, we're Asian American. And I think Kenny talked to me about this earlier. We wanted to talk about or touch on this point briefly about, Asian American identity, right? Right. So do you want to talk about that? Yeah, I think I think we're in such an interesting time right now because, I think with Crazy Rich Asians kind of, setting this in a great film. Great film. Shout out to Crazy Rich Asians. Yeah, shout out. It really kind of helped shine a light that a lot of people didn't necessarily fully disregard, but kind of just pushed to the background. Mm-hmm. Where, Asian Americans within the cinema industry or within, the film and television weren't fully represented. And so I think growing up, especially in Connecticut, where there aren't a lot of Asian people, right. I grew to idolize a lot of people who weren't necessarily Japanese or who weren't necessarily Asian. You want to be the next LeBron James or the next Tom Brady or the next Derek Jeter. And so, you kind of look towards where do I find, Asian American role models. And up until this point, I don't really think that there was a lot that was out there. And so I think a lot of people who identify as Asian American, who were born and raised in the States, often find themselves a little torn because I think that, you're a part of two different cultures. And in some aspects, those cultures don't necessarily want you. And so, full Asian people often believe that Americanized youth often don't carry the same traditions or fundamentals that Asian cultures totally should have, right? Yeah. And white people obviously we look different, so it's and I think that it's tough to find a middle ground. And I think I speak for both of us when I say there was a lot of isolation, not necessarily a bad thing, but I do think that you do find yourself isolated from a lot of people. And I think that I credit UCLA a lot in the idea that I've met a lot of people who had the same storyline as me, that was born and raised in the States, but their parents immigrated, and kind of how do you find your identity and how do you find yourself within the midst of the crowd, and how do you accept yourself, really, just because I think it's such a hard learning curve to realize that you're taking things from the best aspects from both cultures and kind of that's what you represent rather than being unwanted from either side. I think it's like a really huge thing that a lot of people need to try and understand. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people can't really relate to that or like really understand. Right. That's why it's very important to like bring these issues up and really flesh it out and talk about it, because it's such a unique experience that people don't really go through. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, but I think one really messed up thing that happened during my childhood, I remember it was elementary school, right? And we were having a potluck, and I brought rice. Right? It's pretty normal for us. Yeah. But then, there wasn't a lot of Asian people in my community, so they're like, "Oh, that's weird." Yeah. And then I internalized that, like, "Oh, wow, is my culture weird then?" Because I had no one else to reference to or really look up to, like in the media or my friends or anything like that. So I don't know, that experience alone really just like messed me up and like how I perceived my own culture and my parents' culture. And yeah, definitely. I don't know about you. Do you have any like weird stories like that that's happened? Yeah, I mean, like it was weird because elementary school was a time where I feel like I used to be a summer camp counselor, and so you kind of categorize different age groups, and you kind of say like, oh, these are the kind of characteristics that elementary schoolers have. These are the kind of characteristics middle schoolers have. And a lot of the time, elementary schoolers are really transparent with their thoughts, and so they'll say what's on their mind, and they don't really think about the repercussions of it. Right. Mm-hmm. I think it was recess one time, and someone said something as casual as like, it's funny that you have slanted eyes, and it's like they didn't mean anything. Yeah. They're not trying to diss me or anything. It's just they thought it was interesting that I slanted eyes. You probably don't see it. Right. And they weren't used to seeing people like that. And so to me, that was like a really interesting, because I didn't
take offense to it initially at first. It was just kind of more of a question of, why do I have slanted eyes? You know, why do I look the way that I look, and why do these people look different? And to touch upon, you know, your idea as well, I remember when my mom used to ask me what she wanted me to have for dinner, I would always say things like, you know, spaghetti and meatballs, or a hamburger, or mac and cheese, because that's what I you know, learned at school. That's what I thought was the standard dinner. And so a lot of the time, you know, I would eat Japanese food, but I wouldn't necessarily embrace it, just because I would think that, you know, that's not what most people eat. And most people obviously referring to the white people within my community. Right. Excuse me. And so within that idea, it's just kind of like, you know, you reject these ideas for so long, and then you kind of come around and you have an epiphany point where you're just like, wow, like that is something that I've done for so long that, like, you know, you almost regret in a way, but you learn to kind of accept and kind of move forward in that and kind of embrace it. In high school, I made a club with my friend called Ethnic Foods Club. And his parents were also immigrants. They immigrated from Mexico to Connecticut. Obviously, my parents were from Japan. And we felt that we had a lot of, not a lot of, but individuals who had international identity that wasn't necessarily fully represented within our school community. And so once a week, what we would do is just have those dishes of someone's country kind of prepared, and then bring it in and then just try it out, you know? And I think that coming around and accepting you know, my Japanese identity and like Japanese culture helped me embrace other cultures as well, because I feel like for us it helps us have a broader range of who we accept, and kind of like we're more accepting of different cultures and different identities, because we have been in those shoes before. And it's really easy to dismiss people, but I think it is a lot harder to accept people for who they are. And so within that idea, we try to create a community where it's like we accept everyone for who they are and not what they're trying to be. And we had a lot of people come out, and I think it was a really great club. I don't know if it still exists today, but
I hope so.
Yeah,
like a great club.
Yeah. I mean, like, it wasn't too official. It was pretty lax. It was just a lot of our friends, but bit by bit, you begin to meet people who go against the grain, who are like, you know what, you know, I kind of like Asian food, or like, you know what, I actually like your culture a lot. And bit by bit, you begin to not kind of push against those ideas, but begin to accept those. And then I think that once you begin to accept those ideas, you really kind of blossom into like who you are meant to be. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
So now, like, considering like you're at UCLA now, do you feel as if you're ever like struggling internally about like your identity, like being American or versus like Japanese American?
Yeah, definitely. Like I still think it comes up. I just think that it's a lot easier to address now. Those are feelings that I don't necessarily suppress anymore, because I think, like, for those who don't know, UCLA is heavily Asian.
It's
like,
heavily Asian.
Hella Asian people.
I think
like,
we're used
super
to.
different. Yeah. And so coming here and seeing that, at first for me, I was like,
culture shock.
Why the fuck are all these Asian people here, right?
Exactly.
Like, I'm used to, you know, and like, it's kind of funny because now, not only are there so many Asian people here, but there's so many people here who are accepting of Asian people, which I think is like something that a lot of people kind of assume is the standard today. But given that, you know, I was born and raised in a town that had so little minorities, was really shocking and really surprising in a great way. And I think that's like, it really helps open, you know, my eyes as well as other people's into what kind of community and what kind of standards UCLA sets as a collective student, you know, community. And so within the idea of like, you know, I still believe that I'm changing. I still believe that, you know, I have troubles with my identity, but I don't think that they bother me as much anymore, because it's something that like I am still beginning to figure out. And I think that, you know, people never really understand who they are at our age. You know, we're still growing, and we're still young. You know, we're still hip to it, and and I just think that there's just so much opportunity left for us that it would be more troubling if we knew who we were right now, and we kind of assumed that this was the standard going forward. Because not only are we changing, but our culture is changing. I think America as a whole is changing right now. Not just with Asian Americans, but, you know, different collective groups, and you know, going forward, I think this is really, you know, crucial opportunity for us as a country, and like, you know, us as a group to really make a stand for ourselves and make a statement on like who we are as a group and like who we are as a culture, and kind of have our representation be known with everyone. So
I totally agree with that, man. Cheers to that.
Yeah, cheers,
Cheers
baby.
to that. That was good.
Yeah, that was great. You know, power speech
right there. To add on to that, I remember, I also go through like the same sentiments as you do. Like, I still worry about that time to time, but I've come to accept like, okay, I'm still learning about myself and everything that comes along with it, and I've been comfortable with that fact. I'm not really, apprehensive towards it or really afraid anymore. Yeah. But I just remember when I was in Indonesia. So my parents they both immigrated from Indonesia, so I'm Indonesian.
And Jason went on this amazing trip over the summer.
It was so fun.
And like, it was honestly such a blast seeing all of his Instagram stories and posts.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
I felt like I was on your journey too, so it was fantastic. It was great. It was great.
Yeah, so that happened. But it was like a weird, eye-opening experience in the sense where, growing up in America, I was Asian American, but I didn't look like a lot of people in my community, right? Yeah. But returning back to Indonesia, you would think, I'm back in the homeland. People would recognize me for being Indonesian. But it's funny because a lot of the locals didn't think I was Indonesian. Right. The moment where I'd say, I was from America or was born in America or from Los Angeles, they'd be like, oh, you're not Indonesian. Right. So then I'm caught in this weird middle in between where, okay, I can't really identify with either. Like, in America, it's very tough identifying, as Asian American as in itself. But then when I go back, I expected, some acceptance in a way, but no. It was like total outcast. Like, oh, you're not Indonesian. You don't follow the traditional ways of life. All that stuff. Right. But, I mean, as much of the struggle as that is, I still feel like, I don't know, I'm put in this position, like a weird in between, but yet it's still a valuable experience where, I get to carve out like my own person. If that makes sense. For sure. Yeah. But I thought it was just really interesting when I went back and I experienced all that. It was just like something really weird, but eye-opening at the same time.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, that was my trip.
I think it's important. I think that if you are an Asian American, you do need to make an effort to visit your country of descent or your home country. Mm-hmm. Because I do think it is eye-opening in the idea that you are missing a part of yourself by not going. Yeah. I think that, you can get stories from your family, you can get stories from your friends, and but without you as an individual going to visit and really taking in everything for yourself, I feel like you lack something that makes you complete. Totally. And I think that it's really important for everyone out there, especially who's listening and who's kind of beginning to see that they're in the same situation or the same shoes that we're in, to try and make a push to go. And especially as Asian Americans, we all can relate in the idea that it's hella expensive to buy a plane ticket and go halfway across the world.
It's very expensive.
It's hella long of a flight, okay? Your legs are going to cramp, you're going to get super jet lagged, but the moment you land, I think, is going to be the moment that you realize that you made the right choice. Right. And it's something that you will remember for the rest of your life. I think it's super important to try and do that.
Have you been back to Japan?
I haven't been back to Japan in a really long time.
When do you plan on going?
So I might go this summer, depending on how my internship lines up. We'll see how that goes. Yeah. I might go, but I'm definitely going after I graduate. Yeah. I don't know whether it's going to be friends or with just an individual trip, but I think that I have taken a lot of time off. And so now I feel like it is time for me to go back and renew kind of my experiences there.
When was the last time you went?
My freshman to sophomore year of high school. So 2000, summer 2013. Oh wow! So it's been six it's going to be 6 years this year. Time. Yeah. So it's been a minute.
I'll be waiting for those Instagram stories.
Yeah. I'll try and keep everyone updated. You know. Yeah.
Mount Fuji is in Japan, right?
Mount Fuji is in Japan. I've actually been to Mount Fuji.
Oh really?
Yeah. So I have. It was good. I think for me it's like I find a lot of joy in going to places that aren't necessarily so touristy, and so there's a lot of tourists there. Yeah. What I really like though in Mount Fuji is that there's a community of people who live near Mount Fuji that do hiking trips up to the top, and there's a guy who kind of leads them all, and they do their chants and their cheers as they walk up, and here I am taking pictures, near the gift shop and kind of walking around collecting some rocks, and I hear these voices in the distance, and they're kind of coming up, and it's this rowdy bunch of adults who are just hiking just to fucking hike, dude, and it's like, wow, like that's incredible that what's known as an international kind of landmark is just something that is just a daily exercise regimen for a group of people. Yeah. And so I think for any people who like to eat some good eats out there, my favorite ramen experience. This is my favorite ramen experience by far. Is my mom used to and takes me on all these Japan trips. So for those who don't know, Japan, the main island is called Honshu, and I've been to every major city in Honshu, and obviously Japan ramen, like people love it. If you've been to Satel, I'm sure you've been to Tatsu or Tsujita, and it's like amazing. My favorite experience of ramen it was in Japan. My mom and I actually just finished eating dinner, so I was completely full.
Right.
And we're walking along what's called a shotengai. So in Japan, they have all these stores along a street or whatever right next to each other, and they're crammed. And the street is actually walk only, so you just kind of walk all along and down the street where all these stores are here. And there's this kind of tucked away ramen shop, and it's about 8:39, and it was the last night. I think this is in Kyoto, and so my mom was like, hey, I know you like ramen, so, there's a shop right here if you're hungry. I was like, Mom, we just ate. And she was like, yeah, you're right. All right, well, maybe we'll come back. So we kind of walk a little bit down, and then we kind of hook it around and start coming back. And I was like, you know what? I'll just go in and eat. And we walk in, it's completely empty. And now, for most people, right, when you walk into a shop and it's completely empty, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, don't eat there.
Yeah.
And I look at the wall, and all along the wall are all these pictures of people that are signed and hung up on the wall. And so, I spoke Japanese. My mom is also fluent in Japanese. And we kind of, questioned to the owner. We're like, oh, like, what is this wall? And he said, it's all the famous people that have come in here and eaten before. And you're kind of like, well, it's not really adding up. The place is completely empty, but it's, like, super famous. And so we sit down. In Japan, they have communal water pitchers. So there's just a pitcher and there's 2 cups. So my mom and I grab a cup. And I order the tonkotsu ramen. That's what it's called. It's the classic one right there. You always got to go with the classic here so you can compare all of them.
Yeah.
And I think it cost 330 yen. So that translates to about $2, $3.10 in US currency. He brings it out, and I just remember eating it and just thinking, holy shit, like, this is the best, ramen I've ever had. There are thousands of people walking outside in the street, not a damn person in the shop. And I'm just sitting there eating it, and I'm just thinking, this is what it's about. Yeah. Like, this is it right here. It's not about, what's 5 stars on Yelp. Right. It's not about what is, what's recommended from a friend or family. It's about finding places that, are kind of tucked away, maybe aren't so popular, might be a little empty, and just saying fuck it, and just just ordering a dish and just seeing what it is. And I think that to me was so amazing, because it was like, had I stuck with what I traditionally thought, is like, oh, if it's not full, let me look at what the menu is outside. We walked in right after we ate dinner, and I said, fucking, I ate a bowl of ramen, and it was the best bowl of ramen I've ever had.
To this day?
Yeah, to this day. And I've eaten in California, New York, all over Japan, and that is by far the best bowl of ramen I've ever had.
Never judge a book.
Never judge a book by its cover. Indeed.
That is insane. I want to go to Japan someday, so hopefully I'll be able to make that trip and
definitely
travel around.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned earlier that you work as a tour guide. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So what are some, I guess, points that you usually talk about during your tours that you like to flex on UCLA? All that stuff,
yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people kind of categorize tour guides as, individuals who just kind of like are also hip and fun about the campus and like or like
pretty hip,
energetic 24/7. I say a little bit, but I think that UCLA does such a great job because it hires such a vast group of people that are so different in their own ways, but still make the same contributions. And I think I speak upon the group, my coworkers and the tour guides there, and I really think that collectively they are arguably one of the best groups of people on campus. I think that they make such a great impact. And UCLA, for those who don't know, was the most applied to school last year. I think we had over 100,000 applications, right? I think 113,000, 116. Oh yeah. And a lot of those people visit, and a lot of those people are prospective students or transfer students, and you only get one chance or one opportunity, quote Eminem, to visit the school, especially if you're in, my shoes, if you're an international student or out of state. And I really think that, my coworkers do such a great job of presenting the campus in such a holistic way that really makes such a great impact on people. as a tour guide, giving tours, it is tiring. There can be situations, if I had midterms that are, going to be an hour after my tour, or maybe I'd had 3 hours of sleep or something the night before. But I think that, when I'm going to give a tour, I often think, about that person that might be in the crowd, that this is a make or break decision for them. This is something that they saved up a lot of money as a family or as an individual to come out here, and to me that's more than enough energy to really kind of make a tour and make it last. So my favorite highlight on a tour, so if you're listening here and you're trying to get like a virtual UCLA tour, my favorite spots, I really like the inverted fountain. I think the inverted fountain is like one of UCLA's oldest traditions, right? So when you decide to come to UCLA, and I'll like tap into my tour spiel a little bit here. You attend what's called a new student orientation, and so it's like a 3-day, 2-night extravaganza. It's like you meet all these other people. You try the campus food, which is #1 in the nation.
Can't forget
gotta
that.
rep it. You sign up for your classes. You meet older students who can kind of be like your mentors and like getting your transition here. The last thing you do is you actually get Bruin-tie. So what that's called is pretty much you lean over a brick wall. You put your hand in the water with your left hand. You raise your right hand. You say your true Bruin values. So pretty much what that is like, how you're going to study hard, how you're going to make the most of your experience, how you're going to fight off, all that kind of good stuff. And then once you take your hand out of the water, you're officially Bruin-ties, and you can't touch the water again until you graduate. And so, people really do try and avoid it, because if you do touch the water, you're cursed with another quarter here, which doesn't sound so bad until you actually come here and then you experience it. You're like, oh my God.
A lot of time.
A quarter is a lot of time. And so the best thing about it, though, is that when seniors are going to graduate, Jason this spring, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah, hopefully.
No, definitely Jason this spring. What's going to happen is, you're going to hand in your last final paper, and you're going to probably be wearing a pair of swim trunks or a bathing suit, have a towel, and you're just going to go over and start celebrating in the inverted fountain because you finished and you graduated. And so to me, a really great thing is in the springtime, just seeing all these seniors who finished school or popping champagne in the inverted fountain and celebrating because they finished their time. It's kind of motivating to work hard and make the most of your time here. So
do you have any like weird questions people have asked you during tours, or like weird stories during your tours?
It's often, a lot of people think that the students are the ones who ask like the hard questions, but obviously going to UCLA and kind of their reputation and their credibility, a lot of the parents here do the grunt work where they ask a lot of the questions and they kind of press. And so a lot of the time parents are really concerned with, oh, my son or daughter's not going to be able to get into their classes, or with my extracurriculars I get a lot of questions about and especially being involved in a fraternity, like what kind of hazing does your fraternity do? Which is like, we don't haze, so it's like, what, that doesn't make any sense. Like, so it's like, why would you even ask that question?
Exactly.
I actually was giving a Japanese tour one time to a group of Japanese high schoolers. This is before I actually was hired out of undergraduate admissions. And the one question they asked me the whole time was whether I was single or not. And I was just like, that's kind of an odd question to ask. Especially because I was like, oh, here's Powell Library. Like, like we have a lot of books. Yeah. And I was like, do you have any questions? And they're like, oh, what is your relationship status? And I was just like, well, like, wait, I'm sorry, what was the question again? So it kind of caught me off guard. Yeah, I mean, like, I try and make my tours as personable as possible. I try and make sure that they don't see me as a tour guide, but they see me just as a student who's kind of taking his time out to showcase the campus. And so I feel like when you do it that way, a lot of people are more comfortable kind of asking questions they wouldn't want to ask before. That's like my biggest thing is like when people ask like, what is the main drive, or what is like the main thing you want from your tour, is for someone who in the beginning is like super shy, who isn't, laughing at any of my jokes. I crack hella jokes on my tour, by the way. And by the end, they seem more comfortable, and then they begin to ask more questions. And then that I can tell is more of an impact, because to me it's like they're kind of getting acclimated to where they are, and then like, they can begin to ask questions because they kind of feel comfortable asking me as a tour guide. And so I think that's like a super important thing that I always try and maintain.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
So, what is your relationship status? What's going on?
So, honestly, I'm single. Gotta hit the books. Can't be messing around with girls too much right now. But yeah.
Nice.
Nothing too crazy.
I had another question. Let me think.
I know in couch and shout. I'm gonna shout out Nader here. I know
Nader.
Nader was quick to jump to let people know he has a girlfriend. And
congratulations again, man.
Yeah, congratulations, Nader. And I hope. What minute are we at right now? Whatever minute we're at right now, my relationship status is single. I have done a good job of not mentioning it until now. So you heard it here first. All right.
You heard it here first, everyone. Shout out to Nader again for.
Shout out to Nader. Great podcast. Love listening to it.
So, being at UCLA, there's a lot of, famous celebrity sightings, all that stuff.
Right.
And, I know you've met a lot of these celebrities.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. Which celebrities have you met?
Right. So I have a bit of a reputation on this campus for, especially in my fraternity, for meeting a lot of people and going out of my way. Yeah. My list of people. So I always am famous for my infamous selfies. It started when I was a freshman year. So to kind of break into this script, the first celebrity I met was actually my first full day at UCLA. I moved in, came down to Westwood to pick up some groceries or some supplies at Target with my roommate. And lo and behold, Westwood has a movie premiere. Also, for those who don't know, Westwood is our college town, and they have movie premieres about 18 hours of the day, every other day. Literally, you'll never know when it's gonna happen, but it happens all the time. Mm-hmm. And it was for a movie called Storks. I didn't watch the movie. Some animated film, and Keegan-Michael Key was there of Key and Peele. Yeah, and he was, signing things for people up front, and, I kind of just said, fuck it, and I was like, hey, Keegan, can I get a selfie? And he kind of looked into the crowd. We made eye contact, and he was like, well, if you can get up to the front, sure. And so I said, fuck it. So, I bustle up to the front, and then I'm kind of standing there, and I'm kind of shell-shocked because I was like, oh my god, I could actually get this. And then the guy next to me goes, hey, Keegan, he's here. And he looks over, and he goes, holy shit, you made it up here. So he was like, all right, let's take it. And so, lo and behold, that was my first selfie. Man. Ever since then,
That started it all.
That started it all. I've met so many sports celebrities. The highlights include Odell Beckham Jr., who actually just got traded to the Browns. Congratulations.
Congrats.
Yeah, that's a really exciting time for you. He trains here every year in the spring. I think that's super funny. The Los Angeles Lakers and Clippers have a contract with UCLA that allows any visiting team to practice in our facilities before the game in Staples Center. Go Lakers. And so I've met athletes like Joel Embiid, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. When they come by, if I see them on campus, I always, kind of give them a shout. And, some people are like, don't be that annoying guy. It's kind of ridiculous. But, I always put it in perspective where it's like, I'm never ever going to see them ever again.
Exactly.
And
maybe you will.
And I don't go up to them and jam my phone in their face. I'm always like, hey, can I get a selfie? Is it cool? Yeah. Or I'll be like, hey, hope you have a good game, and then they're like, oh, okay, thank you. And then if the picture happens, it happens. But I think it's a really cool thing. My favorite one though is I actually met Kobe Bryant.
I remember that one.
Yep. Yeah. Kobe Bryant is by far the pinnacle.
Talk about that one.
Yeah. So this is the women's basketball game here, and I was actually typing an essay that was due the next day in the library. My buddy Chase, actually, shout out Chase.
Oh, Chase, shout out.
Yeah. Text me, he's like, yo, Kobe is at the women's basketball game. And I was like, no, you're kidding. That's not true. And so he's like, no, I'm seriously serious. And so this is a UConn UCLA women's basketball game, which is one of the biggest games. I think we're ranked number 4 in the nation at the time. UConn obviously being known as number 1. Shout out my hometown, Connecticut. And so Kobe had brought his oldest daughter there to watch the game, and so I said, fuck it. I packed up my stuff, head over to Pauley, which is our basketball, facility, and Chase and I get, close to courtside seats, and I see Kobe, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy's here, I have to get a selfie with him. And so kind of halftime, he gets up, he's kind of walking around on the court, talking to other people. There's a huge group of people that are just trying to get a picture with him, and he's pretty close enough to me that I got a pretty good body shot of him. Obviously not a selfie because he wasn't paying attention, but people were like, Kobe, come over here. And then, he took a picture with a couple kids, but no one really our age. And so, fast forward through the second half, and then there's about 30 seconds left on the clock. And one of my buddies, who used to work on the, the basketball facility, I was like, hey, which way is Kobe leaving? And he kind of nodded towards the general direction. There's a bathroom that's located right near the exit there.
Okay, yeah.
So 30 seconds left. I'm like, yo, Chase, let's hop in the bathroom. Let's wait in there, and then when the game ends, hopefully we can catch Kobe. He's like, all right, that sounds like a good play. So we go in the bathroom, we're waiting, right? And people right after that begin to kind of get the idea together that that's the way that Kobe's going to leave. And so, the buzzer sounds off. I think UConn won. and then all of a sudden, these line of security guards lines up in between the two bleachers where Kobe was going to exit. And Chase and I are on the other side of that. So all these people are trying to get through, and they can't get through because the security guards are there. And Chase and I are just by ourselves here. And so Kobe obviously comes to the security guard area. And I make eye contact with him. And I was like, Kobe, can I please just get one selfie? Just one picture. And Kobe is kind of walking, you know, he's kind of coming up towards me. And he's like, you know, if it's just one picture, why not? And so Chase tries to come in. Unfortunately, Chase is a little bit shorter than me. So I accidentally boxed out Chase. Got the selfie. So it's me, Kobe Bryant, and then Vanessa Bryant, who's his wife, is also in there. And yeah, that was, and you know, I said thank you so much, and he gave me a nod and kept on walking. He did a little pose for me when we took the picture, and yeah, that was that. And I swear, I almost shit my pants because like
I would have done the same
dude,
thing.
the dude is just like his mentality, his aura around him is just something else. And like the dude, he's one of the best players in the game, one of the best to ever, you know, stepped on the court in the NBA. And so just meeting him was just such a dream. And then I stayed up until 3 writing my paper because you know, as good as it was, back to the academics.
The funny thing about that story is that I did not know Chase was in the picture, or like
exactly, yeah. And so Chase also has photo evidence of him with Kobe. It's just not with Kobe's face.
That's unfortunate.
That's unfortunate. Because Chase bailed me out of the library.
Yeah.
And then
he
told me about it.
Yeah.
He you know, Chase is my guy. He told me about it. We went together. And then I boxed him out. It's like, if that isn't, you know, fucking your friend over, I don't know what is, you know. So I feel bad. I'm sorry, Chase. I'm sorry.
Shout out to Chase.
Shout out Chase. But
anyway, Kenny, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a blast. I appreciate it, dog.
Everyone follow Kenny Yamaguchi on his social media.
At Yama__.
A young bachelor, young smart ass, young everything. He's really good at what he does. So
yeah, I appreciate it, and you know, I appreciate everyone listening in to Couch and Chat. Jason does a lot of work for it, and you know, I really appreciate having him on the show. So
thank you, Kenny.
Yeah, appreciate it, dog.
Peace.
Peace.